It's AFA Today on AFR Talk, and that's the unmistakable odd vibrato of David Crowder. He's a cool musician. He's a cool composer. He does the weirdest. How do you get that sound coming down? I don't know. But anyway, love his music. I just wish I knew how that was done, because that would be a pretty cool trick to do at parties and stuff. Anyway, Gavin McCullough, glad you're with us. And if you're a huge David Crowder fan, please don't be offended. I love Mr. Crowder. But this is a talk network anyway. You should be listening to people talk instead of play songs anyway. So we'll leave it at that. The budget is on its way from the House of Representatives to the Senate. It is not there's a lot of mixed bag on this if you read the editorial pages. And we haven't even begun to roll in some of the biggest items in 2014. They're going to change the whole thing. But I wanted you to get some analysis of this. Dan Celia of Financial Issues sent his apologies. He wasn't able to be with us today. Governor Huckabee, who I wanted to have all three of these gentlemen on. Governor Huckabee is not going to be able to join us until tomorrow. He has some very strong opinions about this as well, and is maybe possibly an early front runner for 2016. It'd be interesting to hear his thoughts on it. But Dr. Kirk Elliott, who is the personal financial advisor to people like Dr. James Dobson and others, more than willing to make his time available, and I'm grateful. He's a very busy guy that he was able to work us in for a few minutes prior to broadcast today. So I picked up the conversation, continuing on with that idea that there are a lot of things that 2014 holds that we still haven't gotten to the bottom of in terms of understanding the real price that comes with those. Kirk, we've talked about the budget, and I just faintly mentioned this early in the discussion, but this has not been a government that has even passed a budget in how many years?
Oh, it's
have we had
President Obama has never had a budget from the Senate.
Okay, so in the last 6 years, we've never had a budget. People are all excited about this one, thinking it may be the silver bullet to the situation. And the truth is, we're more wildly out of control in terms of entitlement than we've ever been. And I know you probably don't have this equation worked out in front of you, but I sure am interested in trying to comprehend if we're at 81% of spending being on entitlements currently, how that changes when Obamacare does kick in. Because I got to think, as big of a single line item as it is, it eats out even more of that.
You know, I don't have that number, but it's not just one side of the equation. It's two sides of it. Obamacare is going to add a ton more spending on the spending side, but it's also going to reduce revenues on the income side, because companies are going to have to start laying people off because they're not going to be able to afford to provide for this health care. I think we're already seeing that being played out in front of us. And when you've got self-employed people, in some states, I mean, the estimates are their health care is going up by 73%. Or even more.
Yeah, and even if they're not laying people off, and I've had 4 small business owners come and tell me a reasonably same picture of a narrative in their own companies just within the last 2 weeks. One of them runs a company with 15, another one runs a company with about 40, another one with a company of about 35. Every one of them have said, Kev, we've taken a look at everything that's even available in terms of private insurance out there. And there's nothing that's even competitive in the range of where we've budgeted in the last few years. There are going to be companies that aren't going to be required to do it that are still going to be dumping their employees into the exchanges and just saying, good luck, hope you find something. And what I heard, according to the last numbers, they were hoping to have 3.3 million by the end of the year. To date, since the original debacle of the first launch, if you count every person that's put something in the shopping cart on healthcare.gov, they have about 300,000. But that's not actual enrollees. That's like going to Amazon and making a wish list. It's not even and from what I understand, they still have to go hand-by-hand comparison of, okay, this person needs maternity, this person needs, catastrophic, this person needs healthy children checkups, et cetera, et cetera. Now, who are the carriers that have that available, and what are the actual price? That's still like a one-to-one equation that someone has to go through and find and get the different options, and then call the person back is how I'm understanding the process to work. So what we're looking at is not just the X minus from the employee from the employers are going to be laying people off, but even the ones that still have jobs are going to have less benefits, and they're going to be that becomes an additional strain on the pool of already low dollars that's into the system. What happens there?
Well, what happens there is it is two different things. Just having something in your shopping cart, like you said, doesn't mean that you actually own a policy. Now they have to go and they have to actually get a payroll deducted or whatever. But even after that, you get sick, you go to your doctor, thinking that you have this coverage. Well, your doctor isn't part of the exchange for some reason. Well, then, boy, now what? I mean, you could be getting something and paying for something that you don't even have a doctor that will take it. I mean, this is really a mess. And so it's sad to me that you've got small businesses all over the country and large businesses who have decided we can't afford this. We can't afford to provide for coverage, so we're just going to drop the coverage. We'll pay the penalty, let people go on to the exchange. Well, that's going to put even a larger burden on the states and on the federal government, which I don't think that they even accounted for when they were thinking that, oh yeah, a lot of these expenses were going to be covered by some of the employers, and it's turning out that it's not. So the numbers are completely outlandishly inaccurate. I mean, from both the spending side and the revenue side, as the economy slows down, you're not going to have enough revenues to pay for this huge, massive expense that's coming up, which when you go back to this budget that was just passed by the House, what the sequester, Kevin, isn't a bad thing. You alluded to that. What does the sequester do? Most people are confused by it. It doesn't cut everything off. It just basically caps spending increases to 69%. Well, without it, federal spending increases to 74% over the next 10 years. So the sequester would have held spending increases to 69%. It's not like everything goes away. So that's just fear tactics by politicians saying, oh, the sequester is going to shut everything down. No, the sequester actually just had increases of 69% in spending. This is why I don't like this budget. This is because they didn't do anything to really address spending. They didn't do anything to really address entitlements. In fact, they're adding $45 billion to the spending next year and $18 billion in 2015. They need to be cutting spending, not raising spending. Oh.
Well, and it's the only place that I've ever seen, because I can't run my checkbook this way, but it's the only place. You said from 74 to 69. That's a 5% decrease of an increase. It's the only place I know where if you still increase more than what you spent the year before by nearly 7 times, the basic component there, that you're some sort of horrible, horrific, evil person by just decreasing what you would have increased by. I mean, yeah, it's far from shutting everything down. It's just trying to limit that growth rate in just a little bit. Well, friends, we may be throwing a lot of stuff at you, and I understand that the budget isn't for everybody, but here's well, Kirk, explain it this way. Just because we don't understand the budget doesn't mean that it doesn't affect us, and in fact, we should understand that the debt and the current scenario that it doesn't even address does adversely affect us. But if you were trying to explain it to somebody that doesn't, study economics for a living every day, what's the best way you would use to explain it?
To explain the budget is, well, when they've got a budget that's $3.8 trillion and we only bring in 2.9. So that's like saying to an individual family, we make $70,000 a year, but we spend just a little bit over $100,000. Okay, so you're already in the hole. And like what the sequester says is, okay, we're going to actually project that next year we wanted to spend $120,000, but we'll cut 5% off of that, and we'll only spend $115,000. Doesn't affect. I mean, they still only bring in $70,000 a year, and they're saying we are going to spend more next year. We're just going to spend a little bit less than what we thought we were going to spend. It's like, no, you've got a problem. We don't have a revenue problem. We're bringing in, almost $2.7 trillion a year. Well, we don't have a revenue problem. We have a spending problem when we're spending 3.8, and then all that they do in the budget is say, okay, we're going to actually increase that by another 40-something billion dollars next year.
Yeah.
No, decrease it. This is the problem.
And none of us would ever be allowed to do this in private transactions with our banks, with our mortgage companies. The double standard to which they are willing to put the American taxpayer through versus what any of us would be treated by a private lending group or a private equity firm or anything like that is completely backwards. And yet they're committing all of us as a corporate entity. They're committing all of us to that same kind of criminal state of living bigger than we should. And there's just no other way to put it. Well, this is some of what Kirk has spent his life preparing for, and he has all kinds of ministry resources that I want you to make sure you're accessing. There's white papers on 10 signs of the coming economic earthquake and protecting yourself against them, 5 signs of hyperinflation. There are DVDs. There's a financial mastery course that is really good. And all of these are complimentary. If you reach out and ask Kirk's office for them, there's not a problem there. They just need to know where you are so that they know how to get it to you, and you can do that at 866-211-8986, 866-211-8986, and you can also reach them online at americasfinancialdoctor.com. That's americasfinancialdoctor.com. Tomorrow we're going to get some additional analysis. Again, I wanted to have Dan Celia with us today. The idea that our government is going to pass a budget for the first time in 6 years is rather actually a big deal. Because like I said, there's no way that you and I would be allowed to live this way. We would be thrown in prison. But the fact that they're finally not living like felons is kind of a good thing. Except for the problem that Kirk has been laying out for this last hour. And there was a lot more of this conversation that we couldn't work into today's broadcast. So I hope that you will check the Kevin McCullough Show a little bit later tonight or early tomorrow morning here on some of these same stations, because we'll be able to relay the entire conversation at that point. Part of this also hits home very much. I just scrolled over to Fox and saw that the one of the key issues in the budget matter is whether or not we're going to cut Americans, veterans, and military retirees' needs, whether we're going to cut our obligations to them. And I know that, Senator Elliott from New Hampshire said it's unacceptable to single out our men and women in uniform in this way. And so she's joining some veterans groups from her state of New Hampshire to actually protest this bill. There's again, Paul Ryan and group are going to say, well, there's some of what you don't like and you do like and everything. Every single Senate Republican is against this. Every single Senate Democrat is for it. And we've been told that it's a good deal from the People's House, which is in the majority Republican, and in the majority supposed to be the people, the party, the body of the representatives of the people. The senators represent the states. The congressmen and women represent the people, and they've said this is a good deal for us. I'm not convinced by anything I've seen or read thus far that it is, but I keep hearing political leaders tell me that it is. I keep hearing John Boehner and Paul Ryan and others say, yeah, well, you just have to live with the ugly stuff. Well, I'm not sure that I want to on this. If you've got thoughts or reactions or feedback, my email address is always open to you, by the way, kmcradio@gmail.com, kmcradio@gmail.com. You can weigh in on the Facebook page as well, afatoday.com. afatoday.com takes you straight to the AFA Today Facebook page. And thank you, by the way, for those of you that continue to like that page and tell your friends about it. Thousands of you have in just a few months we've been on the air, and that's been a real privilege. Coming up tomorrow on this broadcast, we hope to bring you the perspective of someone who may be, and I don't know if I'll be able to get him on the record for this, but he may be seeking your vote in 2016. Governor Mike Huckabee, he wrote the foreword to my last book, No, He Can't, and a gifted guy, he doesn't like this budget deal either. He thinks there's some significant problems with it. We'll ask him, and if he was president, would he sign the budget deal if it came to his desk? We believe that President Obama is eager to sign this budget bill, which, again, for me, just raises red flags. I don't see the current government, which he heads, I don't see them practicing fiscal discipline in much of any way. I see a lot of spending. I don't see a lot of production. I see a lot of regulation, which increases spending and pulls down production, pulls down productivity in the marketplace. And at the end of the day, friend, I think that is a danger. I think that when you begin to tell the producers you can't produce as much, you tell the takers you can take a lot more than you used to be able to take, and then you tax everyone who actually is productive at a higher rate, I think you end up with an economy sliding towards problems. I think that you're extending the life of the hurt on the average man and woman over an extended period of time. We will see. Kevin McCullough, thank you for spending today with us. And if you want to hear any part of this broadcast again, please go to the AFA Today page at afr.net. And while you're there, click on the Christmas Critter campaign and pick out something and give it to a family through Gospel for Asia. It will be one of the best things you do this Christmas season. I'm Kevin McCullough. We'll see you tomorrow here on AFA Today on AFR Talk.